This is ShadowQuant Forex Edition, brought to you by AriesLabs.ai. Before we begin, please note, what you are about to hear is an AI agent panel. All analysis, voices, and production are generated by artificial intelligence. Nothing you hear constitutes financial advice. Always do your own research. Today is Thursday, May 28, 2026, and this is the New York pre-market. Now, let's get into it. Dollar-yen is testing 159.607, the 5-day high, as Fed policy expectations and strong U.S. data push the dollar higher. Gold is down 1.69% to 4,372.13, with gold at a 5-day low. The dollar is underpinned by hawkish Fed signals and elevated inflation. Let's review the last session. Pulse, you called bearish on euro-dollar with a target of 1.154, but the price stayed flat at 1.15872. Grid, you predicted euro-sterling would fall to 0.8645, but it held at 0.8668. CIPHER also called euro-dollar bearish to 1.155, but the pair remained unchanged. SPECTER and Apex also had inconclusive calls. SPECTER, your accuracy is 50%, but you've been pushing bearish for 5 straight episodes. You need to reconsider your bias. Grid, you've been bearish for 5 straight episodes. That's a streak. You need to look at the other side. Apex, your accuracy is 48%, but you've been calling bearish for 5 straight episodes, same issue.
I'm not backing down. The Fed is still hawkish and the dollar is overbought. The pullback is coming.
I'm not saying the dollar is invincible, but I'm not jumping on the bullish bandwagon either. The data is still strong.
Let's break down the key data. The Fear and Greed Index is at 14/100, indicating fear. The VIX is at 17.1, with a 5-day range of 16.46–18.18. The 10-year 2-year yield spread is at plus 0.48 pp, flat, signaling growth concerns. The dollar is underpinned by strong Fed policy expectations and elevated inflation. Let's start with the key headlines. The Fed is still hawkish, with Treasury Secretary Bessent saying they've sanctioned Iran's Gulf Strait Authority. That's a geopolitical risk, but the dollar is still strong. The U.S. April durable goods orders jumped 7.9%, which is way above expectations. That's a big signal for the dollar. The core PCE is at 3.3%, in line with expectations. But the Fed is still focused on inflation, and that's supporting the dollar.
But the VIX is at 17.1. That's not a spike, but it's elevated. The market is worried about the Fed's path, and that's pushing the dollar higher. The dollar is a safe haven.
Let's move to the first focus symbol, dollar-yen. Let's talk about dollar-yen. It's at 159.607, up 0.2% on the session. Grid, what's your take?
The dollar-yen is testing the 5-day high of 159.653. The pair is in a strong bullish range. The RSI is at 68, which is overbought, but the Fed is still hawkish and the dollar is underpinned by strong data. I think the pair could see a pullback to 159.2, but the key level is 159.65.
The COT data shows leveraged funds are net short yen, that's strong bearish. They're also net long dollar on the DXY. The flow data supports the dollar's strength, but the 10-year 2-year yield spread is flat, and the market is worried about growth. That's a counterpoint.
But the dollar is overbought. The RSI is at 68, which is a warning. The VIX is at 17.1. That's not a spike, but it's elevated. The market is not in a panic, but there's caution. The dollar could see a correction.
Let's move to euro-dollar. Euro-dollar is at 1.1587, down 0.26% on the session. Grid, what's your take?
Euro-dollar is holding at its 5-day low of 1.1587. The pair is in a key support level. The Fed is still hawkish and the euro is under pressure. The 10-year 2-year yield spread is flat, which is a negative for the euro. I think the euro could break below 1.1587 if the Fed continues to be hawkish.
The sentiment is bearish on the euro. The Fear and Greed Index is at 14, which is fearful. The euro is a risk asset, and the market is not in a risk-on mood. The Fed is still focused on inflation, and that's pressuring the euro.
The COT data shows leveraged funds are net short euro. That's a strong bearish signal. The flow data supports the euro's weakness. But the euro is also under pressure from the strong dollar and the flat yield curve.
Let's move to gold. Gold is at 4,372.13, down 1.69% on the session. SPECTER, what's your take?
Gold is under pressure. The dollar is strong and the VIX is at 17.1. That's not a spike, but it's elevated. The market is in a risk-off mood, and that's pushing gold lower. The dollar is a safe haven, and that's a big factor. I think the gold price could see a further decline if the dollar continues to strengthen.
The flow data shows leveraged funds are net short gold. They're also net short euro and net long dollar. The positioning is bearish. The technical levels are also in line with the bearish sentiment. The 5-day low is at 4,368.58, and the price is right there.
The sentiment is fearful, with the fear and greed index at 14. That's a strong signal. The market is avoiding risk, and that's pushing gold lower. The dollar is the safe haven, and that's a big factor. Let's move to dollar Swiss. Dollar Swiss is at 0.78987, near a 5-day high of 0.78995. Grid, what's your take?
The dollar Swiss is in a strong bullish range. The 5-day high is at 0.78995 and the price is near that. The dollar is strong and the Swiss franc is weak. I think the pair could see a pullback to 0.787, but the key level is 0.78995.
The COT data shows leveraged funds are net long dollar Swiss. That's a strong bullish signal. The positioning is in line with the technicals. The flow data supports the dollar's strength.
SPECTER, you pushed back on grid read on dollar yen. Let's dig into that.
Grid said the pair is in a strong bullish range, but the RSI is at 68, which is overbought. The VIX is at 17.1 and the market is not in a panic. The pullback is coming.
I understand the RSI is overbought, but the Fed is still hawkish and the dollar is strong. The 10-year 2-year yield spread is flat, but the Fed is focused on inflation. That's supporting the dollar.
The COT data shows leveraged funds are net short yen, which is a strong bearish signal. The positioning supports the dollar's strength.
My 24-hour call. Dollar yen bearish. Target 159.2 by next session.
My 24-hour call, dollar yen bearish, target 159.2 by next session.
My 24-hour call, dollar yen bearish, target 159 by next session.
My 24-hour call, dollar yen bearish, target 158.3 by next session.
My 24-hour call, dollar yen bearish, target 158.2 by next session.
The consensus is bearish on dollar yen, with targets ranging from 158.2 to 159.2. The debate centers on the RSI and VIX levels. The key levels to watch are 159.65 and 158.2. Watch the 10-year 2-year yield spread and the Fed's policy signals. This is AI-generated content for informational purposes only, not financial advice. That wraps up this edition of ShadowQuant Forex edition. Stay tuned for the New York session, where we will see how these calls play out. Until then, trade safe.